right. Hello to everybody here. It's Teresa Sanderson. Very excited. Always excited when I come on these things, but excited because today we have another episode of the Nurse Entrepreneur Spotlight featuring my dear friend, Nena Hart, who is a nurse and consultant, healthcare consultant in Hawaii. So welcome, Nena. Thank you for sharing time with us today.
Thanks for having me, Teresa. I love coming on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, and I think we're at a point in the interview series that I really need to backtrack with some people like you because you and I both know that over time on the entrepreneurial journey, we pivot a little bit, some things change, we add services, that kind of thing. So that's really what I want to focus on today is, what you've been doing and all of that. So before we get started though, would you, for people in the group who don't know you yet, would you share this a little bit about your nursing background, kind of work you've done, and, the type of settings that you worked in?
Sure. I actually started as CNA when I was 18 years old in long-term care and worked my way, got my LPN and was a charge nurse on the floor. And I told my husband, I had just gotten married, and I told my husband, I want to get my RN so I can be the DON of this place, the director, because I don't see that things are going right. And I wanted to have the power to change that.
You
And
go.
unfortunately, doesn't work like that, but I did get my RN and I did become the director and I did try to change the things that I could about the facilities that I was at. So my experiences started in long-term care and then I became a case manager in the field. I signed up, I was hired for a part-time on-call position with a hospice when my son was young. So my oldest son was just a baby still. So he was not even one. And that part-time on call was about 50 hours a week. and yeah, but I loved it. I fell in love with hospice. I had worked a little bit with hospice in the facilities, but really being out in the field with those patients and having that autonomy that I had never had before to really, I really saw the impact right there that I was making in their lives and in their deaths. And I absolutely loved it. And so I, long story short, moved into a leadership position, a multi-site leadership position in corporate hospice. And pretty much throughout my career have defined success through my job, through being promoted, through how much money I made, through my role and my title. And not just for, I'm sure part of it is for the ego of just feeling like I did that, but really just for my own, like, this is how I'm making an impact. This is how I'm gonna be the best version of myself. I defined that through my job. So I was offered a CEO position in Hawaii for a hospice here, a large hospice here, and they relocated us over the period of about 10 weeks. And I was let go after about 4 weeks with them. I think it was 5 weeks. So I started after Thanksgiving and I was let go after New Year's. So it was probably the most devastating professional experience of my entire life. And I had to really completely just tear down and rebuild how I defined success. And I lost trust in our employers and our system a lot. And that trust had already been degraded through COVID quite a bit, just to be honest. And so this was kind of the cherry on top of me losing trust with our current system for employing nurses, including myself. And so I could not find or even wrap my brain around a job that I could do anymore. And I had wanted to do consulting for a long time. I wanted to be a consultant since I was a DON, but I kept having all these questions. How would I pay for this? How will I pay my bills? What if I don't make enough money? What if I can't find work? What if? And every time I would get to that what if, I would freak out and panic and stop and never move forward with it.
Okay.
So I got my first contract within 4 weeks. I had been applying for jobs because I had to, because I was here in Hawaii with a new 12-month lease for a cushy CEO salary and no money.
Goodness. Yeah.
So I had applied for a regional quality position with a hospice here, and the doctor called me and said, the position you applied for is filled. And I said, well, thank you for calling and letting me know. And he said, but I see that you worked for this hospice here as the CEO, and it says like last month, like what's going on with that? And I said, well, they fired me, honestly, because I already knew I wasn't getting the job. And
Right.
he
Right.
said, yeah, me too. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, I started my own hospice. So I'd like to know if you would help me with my accreditation process. It looks like you have some pretty extensive experience with
Wow.
accrediting, and I would like your help. So you can work from home. You can work whatever hours you want, as little or as many as you need. You can come in the office and do stuff if you feel like it's a need, and we'll just start there and see how it goes. And I'll just take whatever you made there, and I'll just top that hourly. So that was my first contract, and it ended up being about $200,000 that year.
Oh
So
my gosh.
it was a good contract.
What a
And I
blessing.
helped
What a,
them get
yeah.
accredited, and it was a great experience. And that was in 2021. And here I am 2.5 years later, and still working full time for myself. So
Love it. Oh my gosh. What a
that's the
story.
long version of how we
I,
got to here.
I think everybody needs that story. And I think so many of us have been in that story in one way, shape, or form. And so honestly, though, your journey into entrepreneurship was not necessarily your choice in that particular time. It was just something you stepped into.
Yeah.
And literally, I think it's always funny, though, how when one door closes, another opens. And so you were sent this lifeline in the form of this
Yeah.
director, who reached out to you and said,
Yeah.
can you help me with this? Wow.
Yeah. And anyone, who knows me personally and knows my husband know that we're very faithful people. We have a strong belief system, that, and
Yep.
that
Mm-hmm.
we really have a deep faith in God. And I, at that point, was really questioning that faith and saying, why did you bring us here for me to be fired, for me
Mm-hmm.
to lose this job I needed so badly? And so we really were searching for an answer whether we should just pack up and leave. We had just got
Yeah.
here, and we felt like if there's no job coming, we got to go immediately.
Yeah.
The 4 weeks of waiting from the day I got fired till that director
Mm-hmm.
onboarded me as a consultant were excruciating. We had
Yeah.
zero income for 4 weeks
Yeah.
and had just moved our entire family across the ocean. So it was definitely, to your point, I love that you say that, because it was not a choice that I made. And it was a choice that I heavily questioned, like, this cannot be the right choice. I need a job.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes for nurses, or at least nurses like me, and I'm sure not all nurses are like me, but who want to be in control, who want to
Mm-hmm.
feel like we are driving the vehicle of our life down
Mm-hmm.
this road of our career,
Yep.
um, we can get in our own way. Because I would not have waited for that opportunity. If I had had another job, I would have taken that easy out, that security.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So much wisdom in that and so much goodness. And I'm so glad, you're in a very different spot. And, it's interesting though, because I think regardless of where you are as a nurse entrepreneur, every day brings new challenges.
Yeah.
And I talk to people a lot about, entrepreneurship is a decision you make every single day over and over and over again. Because
Yeah.
I think there's always that escape hatch, well, if I needed to, I could always just, bug out and go and work PRN or
Right.
whatever, and not that that's a bad thing. When I was
Right.
starting my business, I was, doing a little PRN work here and there and that kind of thing. But I think just the idea that you clung to it and you stayed in it and you stayed in it all this time. And ultimately that has to, what do you think you've gained from the experience of stepping into entrepreneurship like this?
Well, I think it has just personally improved my faith immensely. I have grown immensely in my own belief system and um just resilience. I mean, for someone who puts all their success in their job and their identity in their job and what they do,
Yeah.
uh, to be fired is is pretty much the worst thing that I could have imagined happening to me.
Right.
Um, and
Right. Yeah.
so having gone through that and come out, it's like, all right, well, here we are, I'm unemployable at this point, so it's like, you know, I think it made me look inside myself and see where my real value was coming from.
Mm,
Um, because it's easy to think that that comes from a job and someone
mhm.
who identifies your value by their pay scale, um, and
Yeah.
says you're worth this much per hour.
Mhm.
And getting to decide that for myself and explore that and see what I bring to the table and what I really could offer, has been good for me
Love it.
to find that value somewhere else outside of an employer. Um, and just so much. There's so many things. That is probably the main thing, but so many things. I think my kids have seen me do
Mhm.
something different. My oldest daughter is 18 and she wrote us a letter for her high school graduation. They wrote all the parents a letter at the parent dinner.
Wow.
Try not to cry through this because it's pretty fresh. But she wrote a letter and she said, I've seen you do things, that I didn't know you could do. And so it was just really,
Wow.
yeah, it's really special
That is
to put that
beautiful.
together.
That, hey,
But,
that deserves a
you
couple
know,
of tears right there, girl.
yeah.
Mother of
So
five
I didn't
over
know
here.
I
I
could
get
do
it.
those . things either, So I
Yeah.
did things I didn't think I could do and things that I had wanted to do for 10 years that I was too afraid to do then.
Hmm.
She was 1 years old when I was a DON, 2 years old when I was a
Yeah.
DON. And I
Mhm.
could have quit then, Teresa. I
Yeah.
could have quit that job that I knew I didn't really want to do then. And I wanted to open up a CNA school at that time. I could have quit and done that, but I was
Wow.
too afraid, right?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was too afraid to do it. So I had to have that push to be fired to say, like, you know, this is not a guarantee. This is not a safety net for you. This
Hmm.
is,
Mm.
you know, this
Yeah.
is something you're holding on to that you don't need to. So,
I love that. And I just appreciate, your authenticity and vulnerability, being able to, talk about, because there are a lot of heart challenges that come along the
yeah.
way, and they cause us to question ourselves and our deepest beliefs and things that we learned in childhood. So
Mm,
much
yeah.
for me personally of the entrepreneurial journey is undoing a
Yeah.
lot of the things that were ingrained in me as a kid growing up,
Oh,
right? The
100%.
the limited belief systems and all of those things. It's like this constant undoing so that I could be here today, in a different way.
I went back in my notebooks. I've been doing some cleaning and I found the first call you and I had on
Oh,
August 1st of 2021.
okay.
And the very first words at the top of the page are limiting beliefs. And
Wow.
I know that when I met you, I was in a place where I still didn't know what this was going to look like and how this was going to happen and what I was doing. And I hear so many nurses say, like, well, I don't know anything about contracts or proposals. Neither did I. And I don't know anything about negotiating. Neither did I. And I don't know anything about legal. Neither did I. Still don't. Okay. I'm a nurse. I don't
Yeah.
do contracts. I'm not an attorney. So I think there's all these things, that we get mired down in that we think we're expected to know already or already
Mhm.
have inside of us, or, these things that you're talking about, these limiting beliefs that, well, I
Yep.
have to be able to do ABC before I can start a business. And, you really helped me. You really helped me with the mindset piece. That was one thing I remember, you very lovingly challenging me in my negative thoughts. And,
Oh gosh.
a lot of people think things to themselves and don't care enough about people to say it
Mhm.
sometimes or are too afraid to say it. But you definitely put yourself out there to care enough to say, like, sounds like you have some really negative beliefs going on, and that was kind of like a punch in the face a little bit, like, wow, I do. Oh, I do. Wow. Okay. She can hear it on the other side of the Zoom. Right. And if she
Yeah.
can hear it, so can everybody else. And so,
Interesting.
uh,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
those kind of
remember when,
friendships are
yeah.
what you need to sustain your entrepreneurial spirit and get that accountability.
Yeah, yeah, I remember, and yeah, but I've also seen on the flip side, I've seen the growth since then, that you've had that I think is just it's fun to watch, when I saw your successes and you got interviewed here and you got interviewed there, and I'm like, holy smoke, she's letting it go,
There
she's
you go.
moving forward, and I think that's just awesome. And Darren Hardy wrote a book called The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, and right now I'm teaching this workshop called Selling on Social, and being very transparent about my own income journey
Yeah.
over the last 3-4
I'm
years,
registered
right?
for it. I'm
Yeah.
on it. Yeah.
But so I'm teaching this thing and I'm showing real numbers and letting people know, because very seldom do I want to talk about income, and because there's a lot of people talking about income that don't have anything to back it up, right? So
Right.
so very seldom do I want to talk about it, but it's just, there is no get rich quick thing. And I have seen the highs of success, I've seen the lows and the depths of feeling desperate, and all levels in between.
Yeah.
And
Same.
I think that's one of the biggest learning experience and personal growth experiences that we get as entrepreneurs, is being grateful in all of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm grateful for every drop in the bucket, no matter how small, no matter how big. And that's been a very different part of the journey for me, is just to get to that point of saying, hey, thanks. I'm good. I'm good with that. Found a dime on the floor. Hey, this is awesome.
Yeah. I think gratitude is a huge part of it. I think gratitude is a huge part of making that mindset shift happen. It starts with gratitude.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So tell us a little bit about the kind of work that you're doing for your clients right now. What kind of work are you doing in consulting? And give us an update.
Okay. So right now my clients are primarily hospice quality and compliance. I have a few contracts where I'm doing chart audits, survey preparation. I do quarterly QAPI, help them set up their QAPI program, review their policies. I've done a few on-site education and trainings with EMRs for hospices, really looking at processes and are their processes compliant. Setting up their QAPI program, their emergency preparedness program, really putting all that in place. And then something new and kind of exciting that I'm really enjoying is focusing on this software piece. So I've been partnering with, I have 3 partners right now in software, and they're different. This is a totally different business line for
I
me.
love
So
it.
yeah, so one of them is a hospice EMR, and I am a clinical subject matter expert for them. I help them with compliance, and what happens when you push this button? Is that really compliant? Are you saying you did this and you didn't? They want to have the fastest, most compliant hospice software out there, and in my opinion, so far they do. I love it.
Wow.
Yeah, I love their software. I love working with them. And that experience has been super eye-opening for me, because now 2 more softwares have reached out and said, we need a nurse with long-term care experience who
Oh my
can tell
God.
us, what should we be auditing? What should we have in here? Can you talk to our clients about what they should be looking for and why this is so important? Because they're experts. This is what you have to remember when you're dipping your toe outside of your own pond, right? I am not a software expert. I am
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
very most basic nurse, right? Okay. I've used some EMRs. Okay. I pulled some reports in management roles. That's it. Okay. I'm not trained in tech, informatics, IT, nothing. but that's not their need. They are the
Right.
IT experts, not me. They are
Hmm.
the software experts. They don't expect me to be, and they don't want me to be. They want me to be a nurse who's been
Yep.
in management, who knows what reports to pull. They want me to know that. So it's really exciting to get to partner with them and learn about software.
I love that. All right. So, it sounds like this whole software consulting, almost like your initial contract, maybe kind of came out of nowhere, but lo and behold, now you have three clients in that space or three partners that
Yeah.
you're contracted with. And so, I agree with you that I think as nurses, we box ourselves in, right? And I think a lot of nurses would say, I could never contract with a software company. You know what I mean? That just wouldn't be
Yeah.
for me. But, they want you to be a nurse.
Yeah.
And
They're the software.
yeah, yeah. And so,
No, I'm not.
yeah, what other
Yeah.
kind of opportunities are there for nurse consultants?
It's huge. The nurse consultant, it is almost endless. I am friends with so many other consultants. I've met and connected with so many other consultants, and we definitely limit ourselves in this area. And I think what I'm seeing is we are going to have to really niche ourselves down. We are really going to have to say, and I've been
Mm,
doing this in the way that I've been going more towards hospice compliance because when I really started out, uh, I was doing post acute care in general, regulatory and operations, compliance and operations. I wanted to do staffing, I wanted to do survey prep. And what I did was notice the need and who's willing to pay. And when I noticed
there
that
you
I had
go.
talked to 15 skilled nursing CEOs and none of them wanted to pay for staffing programs and education and support, I realized, okay, that was my market research. I
Yep.
validated that was not a service they were willing to pay for. And that's
Hmm.
why I had on hand a hospice paying me for accreditation support. Okay. So I have validated that's a need already. Right. And
Love
in that
that.
accreditation support, I realized their processes were not good. They didn't have processes in place for compliance, quality, survey readiness. And so that's why their last survey had not gone the way they wanted it to. So it was really one of those things where I realized, okay, I need to focus on what's going to sell. So I think that's going to be really key for consulting. But education, any type of education, safety is huge. When you look at risk management, right now there are just huge areas of healthcare that need immediate attention and reform, and we can do that from the ground up. Nurses can do that with partnering with organizations. Infection control is a big one. So like these little like software partnerships, these are not huge contracts of mine. They're not big money makers. I'll tell you, the software piece is not going to be something, especially when you're with a software startup,
Hmm.
that you're either getting a referral or hourly stipend for your services, or you're getting equity in their company. So they're giving equity because, sweat equity,
Yeah.
because you're helping them build this platform. So when you're working with a startup, this is not a cash cow up front.
Hmm.
They're a small business just like you are. So
Sure.
you have to really measure your expectations and manage your expectations when you go into those type of, and that's why I call them a partnership and not really a client, because the
Hmm.
software, my hospice clients and my home care clients right now, they pay for a project fee, or they pay for the contract duration, or they pay for the service they're getting, and that is a set amount. And
Right.
these software companies do not. They pay, for advisement, they pay
Hmm.
for consultations, they pay for referrals when I connect them with a long-term care provider who can use
Hmm.
their software. So it's a different model. It is and
Hmm.
it's been, my whole business over the last 2 years has literally just been adjusting to what works. And so,
I love
um,
that.
not saying no, I think has really been beneficial for me, because like you said, to your point, when I think about your statement that many nurses box themselves in, We start saying no because we don't know what it looks like. It's gray and we don't like that. I'm
Right.
going to say no because I'm not a software expert and because, they're not going to pay me a big chunk of money to work for them. That doesn't mean that that's not a very profitable partnership where you learn and grow and make connections that are very profitable. So I think that really saying yes to the things you feel like you're interested in, you're passionate about, can make an impact, could be a good way to show up as an expert. For me, all three of those software, every single one of them found me in a Facebook group, being an
Wow.
expert, just showing up,
Love it.
being a leader in that space, and said, "Hey, we are asking if you'll look at our software." Sure,
Love it.
of course, yeah, I'll look at your software. Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And so much good stuff unwrapped in there. And one of the things I've been reading a book recently from T. Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And he
Okay.
talks about this concept of, wealthy people figure out how to have both, whereas poor people tend to think either or. Okay.
Oh,
And so it's a huge concept. But anymore, when I look at a situation, it's kind of, well, how can I have both? How can I do both? How can I, provide my clients with both? Those kind of things, instead of like you were just saying, maybe limiting myself. Oh, well, that's different. It's new. I haven't done it before. I don't know about it. It's, because I'm at an interesting space in my own business where my clients are now asking me for different services and different
yeah.
products. And it's a good place to be. But the first inclination is, well, I don't do that.
Right. It's scary too.
And it's more like, well, no,
Scary.
I haven't yet. I
Right. Yeah.
haven't done that yet. So I have to figure out, is that a both? How can I do both situations? So yeah.
One of the things that has really helped me feel good about serving in new areas, I had a physician on Maui who asked me to do some compliance for his urgent care and work with operations, set up his staffing, help prepare him, do a little bit of recovery as far as compliance. And I said, I need to be upfront with you. I have no urgent care experience as a nurse. I've never worked in urgent care. I don't know their regs. I've never consulted with an urgent care before, and he already had an urgent care consultant come and put systems in place a
Mm,
year before, and
okay.
it obviously didn't carry over, wasn't effective, or he wasn't able to implement. And so
Mm,
for me, just really being as transparent as possible with him
mm,
and saying, I would love to help you, and this is in my area of expertise. I know if anybody can look up a reg online, it's me.
yeah.
Okay. Like seriously,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm not here selling you that. I'm not showing up saying I'm an expert in urgent care policies, but I am an expert in regulatory. I can look up a reg and tell you how to apply it. That is in
Yeah.
my wheelhouse to say I understand what they're going to look for when they come in based on
Hmm.
what this requirement says, and I can do that. So I presented him with that option, and he said, "Well, then we'll both learn together," and hired me. And that was $100,000
Yeah.
contract last
Love
year,
it. Love
2022.
it.
So
Fantastic.
it is scary to promise. We think we're
Mhm.
promising things, and other
Mhm.
people don't think we're promising things. They think we're promising to help them, right? And I
Mhm.
can promise that. I can promise to show up and help you and do the best I can. I can't
Yep.
promise you that I'm an expert in urgent care, but I can promise that I've done a lot of this and I'll help you with it. And
Mhm.
so I think, managing our expectations and managing others' expectations is really a big thing when you're working for yourself.
Mhm.
Um, I think, I don't know if it's a nursing thing or a woman thing or me thing, but it could just be me. But I always think like, if I commit to this, this is it, and I will die. Like you're committing your entire life. You're
Yeah.
promising their success. You're promising that they'll have this outcome. If I'm showing up and saying I'm an expert at survey, then you'll have no deficiencies, and that's my promise. Otherwise, I don't deserve to be paid, right? And that's this
Mhm.
dangerous cycle that we can get into when we're trying to work for ourselves and get clients, that we are afraid we are over promising and under delivering. And just
Mhm.
because they don't get their desired outcome doesn't mean that you didn't show up and deliver. So I think that
Love it.
my clients have gotten their desired outcomes. I will say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I, even though I was afraid they wouldn't, they did. They
Yeah.
did get their desired outcome. Um, but I think that it's okay if they don't. I think there are going to be times when you have a client who doesn't hold up their end of the bargain, who doesn't do their end of the work, or who has unrealistic expectations of you, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we've talked about
Valuable.
this before.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
So
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I think too, just recognizing that as a nurse, I think that the strong theme I hear in all that is, you and I say this a lot, is just, own your value. Recognize that as a nurse, you come to the table with years of experience. You have formal education and training in this field. And what somebody has chosen to pay you up until the point that you step out in business on your own, that is somebody else's arbitrary decision about how much money they think they have in their budget that
they
is
can
worthy of
afford.
paying a nurse.
Right.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with your inherent value as a human being on this planet and in this world. It has nothing to do with your value. It is just an arbitrary number. And so if we're talking arbitrary numbers, why not go from $20 an hour to $3,000 an hour? I mean, which do you like
Right.
more?
If it's just a number, right. If
Yeah,
it's
it's
just a
just a
number, then
number.
put out a number.
Yeah, exactly. So, I say earn what you're worth. And how do we know? Charge what the market will bear. That's another thing. We just have to
Right.
get beyond, a lot of nurses, we get caught up in the idea of service and, I'm such a nurturer and I just want to help people and I want to serve people. Well, you
Right.
want to eat too. And you want to
Right.
secure your family and you want to pay for your grandchildren's education and take trips and see the world. And we can't do those things without money. We can't give to our charities without
Yeah.
money, you know?
Yeah. I think my when I hear that, and I hear that all the time when I'm
Mm-hmm.
working with nurses, I hear them saying, we talk about what they're charging. What do you charge?
Mm-hmm.
And $50 to $75 seems to be the sweet spot of what nurses feel
Mm-hmm.
they can charge outside of an employer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they think that's what people are willing to pay. That's what they think is affordable. And I'm not necessarily contesting that. But what I say is, so at the end of the year, when you charge $50 an hour and you look at the fact that you spent,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to pay 35% in taxes, in self-employment taxes on that money, or contract as an independent contractor, you're going to pay, gas, you're going to pay your own gas, you're going to pay your own internet and cell phone bill that you set up these appointments with. You're going to pay
Right.
for your own clothes, and if you wear scrubs, you're going to buy your own scrubs. If
Yep.
you your car needs maintenance, you're going to pay your own car maintenance. If all these expenses that are very
Mm-hmm.
insidious that we don't realize are
Right.
connected to what we're doing when we start out, and I'm guilty of this as well. I didn't track my expenses for like at least 6 months, maybe the first whole year. I don't know, but I'm serious. Like, just like, oh, well, I'm getting this money, and you don't even
Love it.
really put together that, that money needs to pay for other things. And so if
Yeah.
you're going to have a successful business, you need to have money to operate on. You need to have profit. If your business isn't making money for you, and
Yep.
I love profit first, die hard, profit
Gotcha.
first. And
Same.
if your business does not make profit, it is not a business. You are either losing money, giving away money, or you're volunteering, right? If you're
Yep.
if you're breaking even, you're volunteering. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
not paying yourself out of that $50 or $75, that's not
Mm-hmm.
profit. You have to be able to pay yourself.
Mm.
One of my coaching clients was making six figures in her business and not paying herself a dime, not a cent. Had not Making six figures for over a year, had not paid herself 1 cent. Her business
Mm-hmm.
was consuming all of that money. And
Yeah.
so as nurses, we're not necessarily engineered as business people. Some of us
Right.
have more than others, and the rest of us learn on the way. So
Mm-hmm.
recognizing your value is like almost congruent with then managing that and saying, this is my value and how am I going to make this a sustainable business model?
There
Because
you go. Mm-hmm.
if I don't, um, not only am I undervaluing myself, but I also don't have something that's going to work long term for me.
Right, right. I love that. And I think, iron sharpens iron. And, you talked about our first meeting, and I think one of my favorite conversations that I ever had with you was when and it probably wasn't the first conversation, because I think you told me about profit first in that system a couple of times, and I really didn't bite. And then all of a sudden I remember I told Greg, I said, Nena's got this thing called profit first that she keeps talking about. And he listened to the audiobook. I said, would you just listen to it for me? Tell me what you think. I need to cut to the chase. And he said, oh my God, I love it. And so before he knew that, I was reading the book, and then we implemented it. And the whole thing has just been fantastic. We're actually in the process of doing the same thing now for our personal finances.
Yeah.
To, do all the things and cover all the bases. But I just thought that was the most simplified, life-giving financial management tool. So,
yeah. And Mike Michalowicz has a ton of entrepreneur books. I've read them all. I have all of his books. He came to my house on Christmas Eve and signed them for me. Did I tell you that?
Oh my gosh, love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Fantastic.
He came to Lanai City, Hawaii, and came to my house and signed my book. He was already here. It wasn't just for me.
Hey, that's awesome.
Still, and I love him. I love his books. He is a true entrepreneur. He lives what he writes, and that program really helped me make sense of things with my business, because I was going to be in that same cycle that she was in. Except for I was on the opposite spectrum, paying myself everything. I had just been 4 weeks without any income. I wasn't putting anything back into the business. I was taking it all. I needed every cent of that. Right. I had just had no money. So it's an easy system to implement. There are resources out there for nurse entrepreneurs who want to have a legitimate business, who want to make sure, I hear so many nurses like, do I need an accountant? Do I need a CPA? What do I do with my finances? There are resources for that. Wow. And I don't think that in your first year, this is my opinion, it's not legal advice, I don't think you need a bookkeeper in your first year, especially if you don't have active clients. If you have, 2 to 5 active clients in your first year, bring on a bookkeeper. Bring it on. But if you don't have active clients and you're just starting a business, you don't need a bookkeeper. And if you don't have income from your business, you don't even need a CPA unless you're spending money and you have losses to claim, right? You could put that through your personal CPA at that point, because you really don't have business income. So you could talk to your own accountant or whoever's been doing your taxes, or H&R Block, or whoever you go to about that, right? Yeah. So, managing those expenses as you grow has been the experience that I try to really share with nurses who are worried about those type of systems and worried about everything. I'm a worrier. I like to worry about things, whether they exist or not. They could exist. They could, so.
I love that. I love that. So, what I'm hearing, Nena, I hear so many great things in our conversation today. And so I know that you serve your clients, you serve professional clients, businesses, organizations, software companies, but I also hear this undercurrent of, I help other nurses, get started in consulting. I help them just put it in drive, right?
This was born out of our mutual connection, out of one of our mutual past coaches' advice, who I got on the phone with, and I just said, here's what I'm doing. I'm just not seeing traction. I'm seeing this interest. I was creating materials for DONs, my audit materials for hospice. I had created all these download bundles and was coaching DONs and was getting more interest. And I said, but it's really not necessarily, going anywhere. And it's just, it's there and I'm seeing some traction. And that coach, that mentor advised me, you're telling me you have nurses reaching out to you left and right about how to be a consultant, how to create courses, how to do download bundles. And that's not a service line of yours. And that right there is the value of having a mentor. And
Yes.
having a coach for yourself is that they see things you don't even see. It literally never occurred to me. I have nurses left and right asking me, how did you do this? How are you doing this? How are you a consultant? How are you a compliance consultant? How are you doing this? And I did not see that as a service line. I just didn't. I just thought I was helping out other nurses who also wanted to do it. Right.
Yep.
So at that point, I really leaned into helping other nurses start consulting. I started my impact and income program, which is now, graduated that whole year of nurses and evolved into an entirely new model of coaching for me. So I have coached many nurses and really enjoy that. Love seeing their success, love seeing them being able to break out of that box you were talking about. That is really lights me up, being able to see them have that light bulb come on that like, I'm making this harder than it needs to be. And then just do it. Right. No more research. I had a nurse at the NNBA conference who came up to my table and said, I've been in deep research mode. And as soon as I heard those words, I said, and that's over now.
Ooh.
And you've researched and you've researched and you've researched, and that's over now. And now you're in acting mode. Because the next thing out of her mouth was, and I'm not making any money. Research doesn't make you any money.
No, it doesn't.
Don't make money from research. Close out the tabs and start talking to people. And as soon as she started talking, she started seeing, she literally sent me a LinkedIn message yesterday and said, I'm out of research mode. I'm in action. Right. And that was just from a 5-minute conversation at a booth walking by. Like, people need that. People like you to come in and hold them accountable, or to point out areas where they could be breaking out of that box. And so it's so fun to be a part of that. It is really
exciting. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. Well, listen, I want to thank you again for joining me today, Nena, on this special episode of the Nurse Entrepreneur Spotlight. And before we finish up, I do want to give you a few minutes to talk with our viewers about how they can connect with you. Just anything you want to share with them about what's going on with your business.
Awesome. Well, I just want to thank you so much. I love talking to you. This is just like nobody else could be watching this. It's just another me and you conversation, right? And I love you so much, and I'm so grateful for our friendship and really what you've done. Love watching your business. Highly recommend Teresa for the CE provider, which I gotta plug you before I plug me.
So you're talking about you right now.
Teresa helped me get my CE provider license. It was the smoothest process. I can't believe how smooth it was. I highly recommend her. I've recommended her to multiple other nurses. I have 100% faith in her and what she does. So if you're interested in adding CEs for nurses to your business line, I highly recommend that. It's a desirable thing to add to your business. So if you want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, just as Nena Hart. My business is Hart Healthcare Solutions, and that is my post-acute care consulting company. You can find me on Facebook as Nena Hart or Nurses Making Waves. So we had a Nurses Making Waves retreat last year. That was super exciting. And, or I guess it was this year in January, and this time. And so you can find me on Instagram as Nurses Making Waves or Heart Healthcare Solutions. And I'd love to connect with you. DM me, send me a message if anything hit home with you. I have a Facebook group for self-employed nurses. If you search self-employed nurses on Facebook, love to have you in there. I try to do free trainings, give value like this, have amazing people like Teresa come in and give value when I can, and just try to provide support in any way I can for nurses who want to be self-employed. We do a lot of passive income stuff in there, from courses to digital downloads. I really love those passive income streams for laying that foundation of revenue when you don't have active clients. That has really been a huge avenue of success for me. So
love it. Oh my gosh, Nena Hart, thank you so very much for sharing time with all of us today. It's always wonderful to connect with you. And so for those of you watching, if you feel the need to reach out to Nena, I encourage you to do that. She's a powerhouse, a wealth of information, definitely has helped a lot of people, a lot of nurses get started in business. And what we need is resources. Nurse entrepreneurs typically do not need more formal education in nursing. What we need is entrepreneurial business coaching.
Yep.
And so Nena's got a neat thing going for that. So I definitely want to recommend her as well. But
Thanks.
Nena, thank you again for joining me.
I love being on. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And for everybody watching, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Nurse Entrepreneur Spotlight. Bye bye for now.